Hey guys, I'm here. It's been a little while since we covered our new ROCKSTARS video, but today there's one that dropped that I really wanted to check out, and that is their breakdown of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. The trailers alone were packed to the brim with little nuggets to kind of catch on with your little eye, little Easter eggs, little background details that you might have missed. And the movie is like that every step of the way, man. I caught a lot, but my lord, there's no way in a single sitting, single viewing you can catch everything, man. There's the things move way too quick. Things just go by. New scenes come up. Everything's happening on the screen. It's impossible, man. And I'm really excited to dive into this one, actually. This one's a long one, though. It's 40 minutes. So guys, strap in, because this is going to be a wild one. Make sure that you follow New ROCKSTARS, subscribe to their channel for great breakdowns, and let's go ahead and jump into the video. Here we go.
Welcome back to New ROCKSTARS. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, a heartbreaking and stunningly animated sequel to 2018's Into the Spiderverse, a movie filled with Easter eggs, cameos, and incredible attention to detail. I'm gonna break this movie down frame by frame to point out a ton of details that you might have missed, and I revisited and broke down the 2018 film for dozens of new details, and I hosted a live stream of Across the Spiderverse on the Deep Dive channel. So subscribe to the Deep Dive and support us with a Miles Morales Multiverse Dive shirt over at nerdriot.shop. And whoa, hey, look at that. I'm already wearing it right now. I'm gonna wear this shirt until I'm bleeding from my armpits. Okay, over the opening glitching logos for Sony, Columbia Pictures, and Marvel, there is a brief Miles from his name tag in the 2018 film that he slapped on everything. And the Lord and Miller logo has their crest glitching to an old-timey fine mustaches ad with the faces of the producers themselves. And as with the 2018 film, we actually open with the approved by the Comic Code Authority stamp, which was put on comics covers in the 50s to reassure parents that the comics wouldn't glorify crime or corrupt their kids' minds. We open with Gwen Stacy, this time framing this sequel as much her story as it is Miles's. She says, let's do things differently this time, telling Miles' story third person instead of the first person perspective of the introductions of the first film. We see the selfie of Gwen and Miles that she had on her phone in the last film, where you can actually see Peter B. Parker's legs stretched out between the bus seats behind them. This was on their bus ride back, the first time they really connected. And we see Gwen drumming as a member of her band, the Mary Janes, setting up the wild drum solo music that we hear over the closing minutes of the movie as Gwen reassembles her new band. But during Gwen's solo here, we see flashes of Miles' life from the first film, but also his upcoming battles with Miguel and the Spot. So really, this kind of serves as an overture or a prologue for the events to come. This is Gwen's home universe, Earth 65, and the animators designed it to have a pastel watercolor aesthetic. It looks so great. The paint strokes flood into each other, a contrast to the harder lines and boundaries of the other realities. On the subway, Miles appears in the windows, recalling the 2018 film when Stan Lee appeared as an angelic presence on passing trains, which really hit hard back then because it was just a few weeks after Stan died. Gwen remembers before Miles when there was her Peter Parker. This Peter is voiced by Jack Quaid. In her flashbacks, Gwen has longer hair because this was before Miles stuck his hand to her hair and she had to shave it. Gwen flashes through several meals that she, Peter, George, and Aunt May prayed before, including one that might be Halloween. Peter dresses as a dinosaur or a lizard, Gwen in a traffic cone shirt, George is a cowboy, and they're all eating, what is that? Bagels! This is the cursed food that led to the Spot and in 2022 became the symbol for the multiverse.
Yeah, dude, what is with bagels as of late, man?
65 Peter isn't Flash Thompson, it's Ned. As in the Spider-Man comics,
I caught that too.
The lizard. This is Halloween costume, which we actually saw at the end of Gwen's backstory in the 2018 film. And then we hear the voice of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson reporting Captain George Stacy.
We hear J.K. anytime in any universe where a news broadcast is going on, though. No matter where we are, if somebody's talking news, JJ's voice is coming through the speakers, man.
He is leading the manhunt for Spider-Woman. Simmons voices J. Jonah Jameson in several different realities in this movie, including the Lego universe later. This guy is a freaking Nexus being, I'm telling you. In the Stacy family home, Gwen is watercolor painted blue and an otherwise pink wash, showing her depression. Her room, her sanctuary, is also blue like she is.
God, I love it.
Orange and fuchsia wears a faded Visions Gymnastic Academy sweatshirt, suggesting he might have once done cheer and probably coached Gwen's acrobatics when she was young. He's a good papa. Gwen has replaced her teal ballet slippers with teal Chuck Taylors, which she reportedly got from Toby Brown. So I don't know, maybe they met before Gwen teams up with Miguel and Jess in the Spider Society. When Gwen hugs her dad, the blueness of her room warms into pink watercolors. Sometimes that's all it takes to change your whole world. Above Gwen's door
I love
is
it.
a sign reading, "Protect trans kids," and some of you are mad now.
Yo.
And if that pisses you off, feel free to stop watching. I don't need reviews. Spider-Gwen webs up her dad.
So,
Hell yeah.
how's the manhunt for me going?
Yeah, she lowers her voice just like Miles does when he's masked and he talks to his dad.
Thank you for your bravery tonight.
Now the Vulture
I
she
heard that
finds
coming to
keeps
my
shaping
head
another universe.
already,
He's
so
named
that's why I
Adriano
chuckled.
Tumino instead of Adrian Toombs, voiced by Yorma Tacone. His design and his sepia color tone and his papery texture is
God,
based on
I
Leonardo
love
da Vinci
it. Yeah,
sketches. And like how
dude.
when he fires weapons, Da Vinci scribbles and instructions appear around him. He lands in front of the Jeff Koons retrospective exhibit. This is a real exhibit at the Guggenheim with balloon animal fixtures made from stainless steel. So basically, this is a Renaissance era artist disgusted with postmodernism. It's just kind of an art joke. He says, which translates to "bye girl" on the screen. But Gwen is saved by Miguel O'Hara, voiced by Oscar Isaac, Spider-Man 2099 from Earth 928, who first appeared in the 2018 film post-credit scene. Gwen says,
I'm sorry, who exactly are you supposed to be?
Isn't it obvious?
I don't know if he's going to comment on this, and who knows. Knowing my track record, he's going to. But I went back and revisited that scene, the original post-credit scene or whatever, and God, I know like a year has passed, right? Like a lot of time has passed between the first one and this one. So the whole thing instigated and kicked off with that post-credit scene happening right after the event, right? So just imagine how much more jacked, because one, it's a new suit, different design now. He just got the prototype bracelet that they all use. But my Lord, but in that year, dude, he has gotten jacked, man. Holy shit.
The Blue Panther.
That's funny.
The caped Blue Satyr?
yes, Blue Panther reference to Black Panther with similar claws, caped Blue Satyr reference to Batman, caped Crusader with similar brooding. When he's introduced with this comic, it lands on the stack of the comics of all the other Spider people we've met, including all the ones in the first film in the order that we met them. I just like how this stack is cumulative. Miguel shames her and the others for breaking the multiverse in the last movie, and then he says,
He started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 1999-99.
Who's Doctor Strange? Sounds like he maybe shouldn't practice medicine.
yes, Earth 199-999 has in the past been the numerical designation for the MCU films and the shows, but this was thrown into question when Christine Palmer called it 616 in Multiverse of Madness. I made a video proposing that the MCU deserves neither designation. Vulture reassembles his wing and
You also can consider, because this argument came up a few times at a couple DC things, it's like every Earth thinks they're Earth 1 in this kind of way or whatever. So Christine Palmer, her designation of the multiverse, and Kevin Feige's designation of the multiverse, if you will, of their Earth and within the multiverse, rather, is subjective based on whoever's cataloging it themselves, really.
Miguel complains, he's got hammer space. And then we see an editor's note text window popping up.
Yeah, I saw that, dude.
Infinite extra-dimensional storage area for cartoon hammers and the like. This is calling back Spider-Ham's mallet gift to Miles that he said could fit into any pocket and not take up any space. Miguel's digital assistant is Lila, voiced by Greta Lee, and she calls in Spider-Woman Jessica Drew, voiced by Issa Rae. Her yellow goggles match the shape of her yellow eyepieces in the comics. Overall, she has the red, black, and yellow color scheme like she does. And yes, she is pregnant.
Are you,
Oh, this? We don't know the sex yet. My husband wants it to be a surprise. He's really corny, but so hot.
Jessica Drew is pregnant in the comics leading up to the Secret Wars event, and we do not meet her husband in this movie. Presumably, we will meet this interesting character in the third movie, Beyond the Spider-Verse, coming next year. Now, when the Vulture falls, he hits a beam, and then text says, "Notte notte," which is Italian for night night. And the three of them stop the helicopter from crashing over the bystanders, and one looks up at it and says, "Yeah, I think it's a Banksy." Which is a callback
dude,
to
I
the
saw
same
that
exact
too.
soundbite from the 2018 film, the vocal cameo by Post Malone.
Yeah, I think it's a Banksy.
So Captain Stacy holds his daughter at gunpoint and she unmasks herself, and the watercolor brushstrokes smear down behind them, which is a cool way of showing their whole world melting. Miguel and Jess invite Gwen out of pity to join the Spider Society, and they leave through these hexagonal portals, hexagons being a recurring shape in the MCU to show rifts through space and through dimensions. So on to Earth 1610, Brooklyn. There's a food cart for Mother Shuckers. I love it. We've all this spot, voiced by Jason Schwartzman, as he robs the ATM of a bodega. As he passes the bodega register, it reads, "Game over." So the spot peels off one of his oozy ink dots to try to open a portal into this ATM, but he fails. At one point, he runs his own hand to the side and he hurts his knuckles. But when he finally reaches in, notice how the $100 bill has a different face than Benjamin Franklin? Thought this might be director Joaquin Dos Santos, I'm not exactly sure. And in addition to calling it an ATM machine, the spot says pin number, which is also redundant since N stands for number already. Now, Miles cuts away from this to recap the past year. The sequel, I believe, is set 1 year and 4 months after the first
I don't
movie.
know what I
One of the
was
villains he
trying to
fights
say
appears to be
there.
the Marvel villain Leapfrog. He says he hosted Jeopardy with categories including idioms, spider sense and sensibility, the wide web world, and Thwibbit. We learned he endorsed baby powder, which is a callback to Peter B. Parker's advice in the first film to use baby powder to get in and out of the suit. Then he has to apologize in a YouTube video. And then we see Miles adding to his no expectations wall art mural all of his friends from the 2018 film. I love how throughout this movie, Uncle Aaron keeps coming back and back and back just to remind us how important he is to Miles' life and set up the big twist in the final act of this movie. This fight with the Spot causes him to be late to his parent-teacher conference, flying through portals in the background and catching a goose, which is a callback to when Miles got stuck to 2 pigeons in the first movie. And when they fly through a blue portal, following them is another the symbol of Jonathan Owen's pain and his rage toward Miles. I like how on Jefferson's phone text history, he wrote in all caps, "This is imporkage," and then he tried to correct Kent, and then finally gets it right, important. Miles.
Well, you see those actually pop up while Miles is running around, like little bloop blops come up too. So yeah, of course they'd be there.
With the Spot on a rooftop, dodging his punches and kicks. At one point, squeezing between a punch and a kick, essentially threading the needle. I love it.
That's
Miles
true.
pats the Spot on the head, and red text
Good
reads,
cow.
"Cow," because with all the spots, he looks like a Dalmatian and a cow. And then Miles and the Spot tumble into the foam party cafe, having a literal foam party with all the suds and bubbles and that goose squawking around. This is the same cafe that Jefferson pointed out at the beginning of the 2018 film, the one with the long line, as the neighborhood was being gentrified. Miles returns to his Brooklyn Visions Academy dorm room, where
then you have the kid getting like, maybe I don't want this anymore.
his roommate remains Ganke Lee, who is Miles' buddy in the Ultimate Comics, but this character in the 2018 film had all of his dialogue cut. The character has now been given lines and aged up in physique and in voice.
I'm not your guy in the chair.
Are those my Jordans?
I can't help it if we're the same size.
Guy in the chair, a reference to Ned Leeds, Jacob Batalon's character in the MCU, being Tom Holland, Peter Parker's guy in the chair in Spider-Man Homecoming, and the character of Ned in the MCU was really just based off of Ganke Lee from the Ultimate Comics. Now, Ganke Lee is voiced in this movie by Peter Sohn, director of Pixar's Elemental, and is also the voice of Socks in Pixar's Lightyear. Movie's Kent Powers, director of Pixar's Soul. I like how they just keep it in the family, even though Peter Sohn's Elemental is going to be in direct competition with Across the Spiderverse in the month of June at the box office. At the end of the day, all these animators just love and respect each other. I love it. So Miles finally arrives to the parent-teacher conference, where his teacher is voiced by Rachel Dratch.
Miles's grades are pretty good. A in AP Physics.
That's my little man.
And a B in Spanish.
What?
Ooh, okay.
Miles.
Are you trying to
Mira,
kill
eso
your
es
mother?
imposible.
I love how Jefferson tries to place that cat-themed desk ornament back together, but he fails. The teacher's eyes just dart over, but she just keeps talking anyway. It's kind of like in Iron Man 2 when Tony Stark obsesses over that thing on his desk. We learn that Miles is excelling at AP Physics because, like the MCU Peter Parker, it just helps any Spider-Man to know physics and trajectories and motion,
logo on his bag
Miles
too.
B in Spanish is met with outrage from his Puerto Rican mother, when she snaps, it forms a little Puerto Rican flag, like the sting of his mother's snap, hits him with the full might of his Puerto Rican heritage. So Miles leaves the guidance counselor's office to rejoin his fight with the Spot, which tumbles into Wilson Fisk's old Alchemex Collider site, the location of the showdown of the 2018 film, but it's now under construction with this canopy made of reflective panels, reminding me of the dome that was constructed over the Chernobyl site, based on this Pardon Our Mess sign. It looks like Alchemex are the ones actually cleaning it up. Maybe they're continuing to have some nefarious plans here. Like, you would think the government would be like, you guys aren't allowed anywhere near this. So the Spot explains his backstory, and we see the Earth 42 spider that bit Miles, but in its Earth 42 reality, right before it left, it was going to bite alternate Miles. You can see his hair in braids. This is foreshadowing the Miles we see in the third act
I
of the
missed
movie,
that.
the big twist, telling us that in that reality, it was not going to be Peter Parker who got bit. It was going to be a Miles Morales. The Spot reveals that he was the one who got struck with that hilarious bagel action.
Jokes on you, Miguel.
Between Owen being the source of Spider 42 coming into 1610 and Miles being the source of the bagel incident, they really did create each other. The Spot trips and he kicks himself in the butt through a portal. It looks like one of the pieces from debris from the hex tiles kind of looks like the rectangular USB drive from the first film. The trip mirrors Miles tripping on his shoelaces when he was running across the rooftop for his jump test. That is what broke the USB drive, and it kind of was the embarrassment early in his arc that motivated the rest of his story. So similarly for the Spot in this movie, his embarrassment here is really what unlocks the next.
Man, I love this like underlying layout that they have, you know, for your proportions, like the shoulder circles, and you see this on a lot of different characters, especially the Spot. I think it's nice. It's more noticeable at the Spot, but you see it with Miguel and a couple other people as well, where you get to see like the actual like artist like layout to where they would put the face, where they put the eyes, where the shoulders would be proportionally to keep your human figure intact. I don't know. I love those little details.
Stage of his hero's journey. He finds himself in this inky hole realm where all the dark matter has left his body, creating all these portals into the multiverse. The first he looks into is this classic animation universe from the 1940s with Ben Day dots. There's a woman in a black and white polka dot blouse who hits him with her purse, her blouse matching the pattern of his skin. On the cinema marquee is a movie titled The Tall Man, coming soon. Then he looks into the Lego universe.
Yeah, dude.
Gordon Miller's work on the Lego movies. We'll come back to this one. Then he drops by Chinatown of Earth 688. with
Dude,
Miss
this one
Chen
blew
from
my
Venom and
mind.
There Be Carnage.
What do you want? I'm robbing you because I'm a bad guy.
I love how unfazed Miss Chen is. And the brand of gum he steals, if you look closely, is Brock's Venomint, a reference to Eddie Brock.
Yes.
Venom. And this establishes
That's
Sony's
what I
Venom
thought
movies
it said.
at
I just wasn't
688,
sure if I was
and they're
crazy or not.
organizing this. Spot looks at his hands and says, "The power of the multiverse in the palm of my hand." A nod to Doc Ock's line in Spider-Man 2 in 2004.
Nice.
Power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Which he echoes in Spider-Man No Way Home.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Back in the Legoverse, we see a text box, which is actually in the shape of a red Lego brick, labeling this Earth 13122. This Peter Parker is voiced by Nick Novicki. There's a Lego J. Jonah Jameson in this Daily Bugle office, and they use J.K. Simmons' audio from the 2002 Sam Raimi film when he says,
Tomorrow morning, Spider-Man, page 1 with a decent picture this time.
So back in 1610, Miles cannot thwip when he's carrying cake boxes, so he has to ride a crowded train. Kind of like Tobey Maguire Peter Parker trying to pizza time in Spider-Man 2 and having to take the elevator afterward. Miles has to hop off the track to quickly zap the villain, the Armadillo, and then Miles foils a thief stealing Nikes. He passes a bunch of gawkers, including this smiling dumbass with glasses. This is an aged up version of that goofy student. who
Oh,
smiles at
wow,
Miles at the
really?
Visions Academy in the first film. Miles shows up late.
Dude, he had a
to the
growth
rooftop
spurt.
Party, having changed into his basketball jersey, number 42. Miles'
Oh,
number. The case are now
nice.
wrecked. His heartfelt messages
I'm
spelling
not
out
proud.
just, "I'm not," and then proud. Jeff and Rio complain that Genki calls them by their first name, so later when Gwen does it, they really cringe. Miles refers to his friends Peter and Gwanda using Gwen's fake name that she gave him in the first film. Miles returns to his room where boxing gloves hang by the door, again reminding us of his boxing lessons with Uncle Aaron. There's also a Michelle Obama campaign sticker suggesting
cool.
that in 1610 she was the Obama who held, or at least sought, public office. Whereas before it was Sunflower, the hot track of this sequel is Hummingbird by Metro Boomin and James Blake, which Miles chills out to here. Remember, the 2018 film ended with Miles listening to Post Malone's Sunflower as Gwen opened that portal over his bed and asked if he has a minute. And this scene picks up with a similar moment, just like that. But a year has passed since the events of the first film, and notice how throughout this movie, Miles has been aged up a bit. A longer face, he's a bit taller, and he has longer hair. Floating around his room is a bunch of trading cards with these red and white balls on them. These are for Teriyakimon, the 1610 version of Pokemon.
I thought
And when they're
that
sitting on
looked
the bed, floating past is a framed
similar.
photo of Miles with his Uncle Aaron, his mentor figure, who was shot by Kingpin in the 2018 film. And on Miles' shelf is an RC Spider-Mobile, which 1610 Peter had a life-size version of in the 2018 film. And above that, the specific photo of Miles' dad Jefferson and his brother Aaron that Jefferson had as his phone background. And this exact photo was framed in Aaron's apartment. So this is probably something Miles found in his uncle's apartment and moved to his bedroom. Also on the shelf on the left side of frame, Miles has this wooden moose. This is actually an Easter egg for Lord and Miller's 2021 film, Mitchell's vs. Machines.
Oh,
this moose
yeah.
is a hugely important item to the Mitchell family in that movie.
Oh, that movie is so good, man. A lot of the animation, there's a lot of animation stylistic bleed over between this series and that. It was just, I love Mitchell's versus the Machines, dude. Oh, I like that.
Finds Miles' sketchbook. Our man is lucky that she didn't see any of the other drawings he probably drew of her in this. But
Oh,
more
God.
on the left,
Calm down. What are you trying to say? Eric, what the fuck?
He kept a bus ticket stub. Hudson Valley Explorers connected to Brooklyn Central. This was the bus ride home that they took after Gwen saved them from Olivia Octavius in the Forest in the 2018 film. So Miles has been scrapbooking his relationship with her. Miles and Gwen swing from construction crane to construction crane, just like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man does at the climax of the 2012 Amazing Spider-Man film, as they thread the needle between buses. Notice how this whole block is just colored in pink and teal hues, a way of showing how Gwen's colors are tinting and shading this reality as her influence spreads throughout it. There's this awesome point of view shot from the truck.
See, it's like little details like that, man. I love the artistic vision in this movie, man. There's so many ways that the background elements, the tone, the music all accentuate the narrative that's unfolding in these ways you wouldn't normally think about, and you can't replicate without the human hand, man. Can't tell me any fucking AI would be able to figure that shit out, and fuck you.
Miles swings on the right side, reflected in both mirrors, and then we turn to the right side mirrors as he flies behind the truck, and the exclamation points from his scream chase him, just like the "ah" from his fall in the 2018 film and the woo in the final act. I just love how Miles stays behind Gwen throughout this whole sequence.
God, I want to
hiding
watch
his
this
clumsy
movie again,
collisions
man.
and trying to come off as more confident than he really is. Really, though, just copying Gwen's moves, like hastily tying his web to his ankle. He tries to claim that he's learned just as much as she has, but really he's just actively learning in this moment from her. They pass the hot dog
that's the
vendor,
vibe I
and we see
got
the action
too.
word take on the hot dog swipe, but then Miles whips money to the vendor's chest. If you look closely, this is an alternate universe $25 bill. I love this. There's just a kid who mindlessly licks the window of the train with a big ol' smile.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character of this movie. I can watch him on loop. This is just so funny to me. Gwen plants a drone to spy on the Spot's apartment. Above it, I love this, is a billboard with a bagel. All of it, always,
Oh my
all over the
God.
place. A 1610 version of the bagel-themed Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie's
Oh,
animator
wow.
is clearly acknowledging the bagel
Dude.
that Jonathan owned. Miles and Gwen look out at the city, sitting upside down from the Williamsburg Bank building, creating such a trippy but great visual.
Oh, I
Gwen says,
love
In
this.
every other universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man. And in every other universe, it doesn't end well.
Not only is she referring to Earth 65, Peter's death as a lizard, she's also
Yeah.
referring to the universes where Gwen Stacy famously dies in the Death of Gwen Stacy arc, like we saw with Emma Stone in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Back at the rooftop party, Miles and Gwen flip some food, and we
That-
see a can
you
of
have
grape
to
drink.
add that
Not
sound
my favorite
effect.
Dave Chappelle bit.
A lot of black people don't have the privilege of knowing about grape juice because they have grape drink. It's not the same formula.
After Miles' parents scare off Gwen, we get this heartfelt moment between
my
Miles and his
God.
mother Rio. The city they look out on has incomplete sketch lines in the distant background
wow.
for the buildings, kind of in the haze of the city. It's just a really cool
Interesting.
detail to suggest that the Manhattan skyline is a part of New York that Miles might not know as well, because really his home neighborhood is Brooklyn. Rio gives
Oh, that's a nice little way to think about it too. One thing I always notice about the background, especially here, is there's always kind of like it was almost like always overlaid with image, like this kind of like underlayer. In a way, it always gave the background elements this kind of like you're supposed to be wearing 3D glasses kind of vibe, because it looked like you have like a bit of a double image going on when you're looking at the background plate. And sometimes it like hurt my eyes, I'm not gonna lie, but like I still think it's a gorgeous, nice little detail. But it always tricked my brain into thinking it was out of focus or something like that sometimes, which is also another little added trick to make you focused on the foreground elements even more so.
Miles the advice that he really needs for this whole film, saying that she hopes her son never lets anyone of those big, fancy, important places he's
Yeah,
going to be in
dude.
tell him that he doesn't belong there. I think all of us can relate to feeling like an imposter or a mistake or told that we're not ready for the big leagues. And I think the third
Yeah.
Spider-Verse movie will prove that Miles' anomalistic status is actually the rule all Spider people should live by. But it's just sad to think that this moment with Rio is the last time in this movie Miles will talk to his home reality mother. And his chat with Jeff earlier might be the last time he talks to his dad from any reality. Miles changes wardrobe as he descends a fire escape, unzipping his pants on the ground and seeing a dog walker and a dog, and then awkwardly re-zipping his pants back up. Okay, then to Owen's apartment. We see from photographs that he was once a long-haired and bearded colleague to Liv Octavius. His spider containers are labeled Earth 42. This was the spider that bit Miles, which is now deceased because Miles swatted and killed it. But there are other containers labeled 14512, that's Penny Parker's universe, 333, 90214, that is Spider-Man Noir's universe, and 19925. This is a universe supposedly written by a bot. Miles jumps in after Gwen into the portal tunnel and lands in Earth 50101, Mumbattan, a cross between Mumbai and Manhattan. From above, its geography looks like the island of Manhattan, but greener, and what we think are the rivers are actually just the city's lower levels. The artist designed Mumbattan to keep going down and
love
down
this
and down,
place,
in contrast
man.
to 1610 and Nueva York, where the city just goes up and up and up. In Mumbattan, instead of the trains running on top of the tracks, the cars hang below from the rail above them. Throughout Mumbattan, you can see signs for Zomato, which is a restaurant group in India, and here we meet Pav.
Yes, dude, I love him.
50101 is voiced by Karen Sony, aka Dopinder from the Deadpool films. He spins his web shooter on a spindle like a yo-yo. It looks so cool.
Yeah, man.
All the action words in 50101 are in Hindi. Like at one point, we see thwip in Hindi, and when Profiteer hits the spot in the back of the head, it makes this Hindi word dadak, which translates to roughly bang or slam. And Profiteer corrects Miles on the common American chai tea mix-up.
I love chai tea.
What did you just say? Chai means tea, bro. You're saying tea.
And I love how Miles is so distracted, he spills the tea. It
As a callback to the ATM joke from earlier too. Why you call it ATM machine? The M stands for machine.
flows from the cup onto the table. Also, you could consider this a callback to Miles correcting the spot on ATM machine, which is also redundant. The M stands for war machine already. So as these three fight the Spot in Mumbattan, we see that his dark matter has filled in more of his body so that he's gradually going more from white to black throughout this movie. He makes it to the Mumbattan Alchemix lab for its collider, and Miles tries to supercharge the barrier with this new move that he's working on, but Hobie Brown arrives, Spider-Punk, voiced by Daniel Kaluuya, and he looks so cool.
Yeah,
in this
man,
movie.
I
We
love
have
his
different textures
design.
of paper newspapers and posters, but a lot of it is in the speed at which he moves. In the 2018 film, remember, Miles was initially animated on 2s, which means 12 frames per second instead of the normal 24 frames per second, giving him a more staggered, choppier movement. By the end of the movie, he was animated on 1s to show his evolution into smoother, more confident swings in 24 frames per second. Hobie in this movie is deliberately animated, I guess you'd say on 4s? It looks like 6 frames per second. Really, really choppy movement,
Yeah, dude.
but intentionally staggered. A punk rock poster come to life. I love how this reflects Hobie as a character, a spider variant who makes a choice of being out of step with the other spider people, even more grounded in his home medium than Miles was. It shows Miles that there's another way to exist in this multiverse, and arguably more powerful
that's a
way,
good
because
point.
It forces the viewer to look
I
at
like
every
that
single
so
pose that you
much.
strike. Hobie says,
I'm not a role model. I was briefly a runway model. I hate the AM, I hate the PM, labels.
yeah, hate the PM. A bit of wordplay there, because wordplay is always very common in the cocky slang. Like later we see him say Scooby-Doo, meaning clue. But by PM, yes, he's saying he hates the time of day in the afternoon, but also he hates the PM as in the Prime Minister. As a punk rock music scene in the UK grew out of anger largely at Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The Spot activates the collider and fuses with the dark matter, and Miles'
Yeah, dude,
consciousness
I
briefly
fucking love that design, man. It's so inky and charcoaly. It's like it's the perfect aesthetic that it kind of encapsulates how I like to like draw and make my pieces, mostly out of charcoal, though that does have a little bit of a bit of an inky vibe to it all because of the whole blotchy spot nature of it all. But still, the swirling, twirling, rough, jagged way that he's just kind of like these just aggressive strokes, man. I love it.
Overlaps with Jonathan Owens. He sees a black and white future of Owens' plans to absorb all of reality and cause the deaths of police captains, with Inspector Singh, Gayatri's father, and Miles' dad, Captain Morales, flickering back and forth as they rush to save a kid. So when Miles saves Singh, in his mind, he's saving his own dad, but both are considered canon events that Miguel O'Hara wants to play out. The Alchemix building collapses, raining rubble all over the city, and the Ford leap into action. Privateer sees Gayatri on a double-decker bus on the bridge, recalling MCU Peter Parker's girlfriend MJ in a double-decker bus on Tower Bridge in Spider-Man Far From Home in the MCU. Everyone ends up getting saved. It's an awesome scene, but Miles disrupting the canon event of Inspector Singh's death causes dark matter to consume the city. Jessica Drew arrives with the team to contain it. She takes the rest back to Nueva York, Earth 928, and Spider Society HQ. And I just love the reveal that initially it's all upside down, with Miles and the rest on the bottom side of the elevator lift. It's an interesting directional inversion of that great moment in the 2018 film where Miles dives, but they invert the shot to make it look like a triumphant rise. Here it's the opposite. Miles is technically rising and going up the skyscraper, but because he's upside down, it feels like a descent into hell, because this is not a good place where Miles is going. But hey, we get to meet a ton of spider things.
Here we go, man.
280 spider people for this movie. We've already met a dozen or so, but the majority of ones in this HQ are really just non-specific variants of different shapes and suit designs. I'm just gonna cover these specific references to ones known from the comics and other media. So as they arrive, we meet Malala Windsor, Spider UK from Earth 835. She's voiced by Sophia Barclay. She says, "Anyone spot the spot?" And Jess gets annoyed and asks if anyone else's jokes, and we see yellow text boxes showing everyone else's jokes. See Spot run? X marks the weird looking bad guy. Did you say quip or thwip? We need to run a spot check. He could be in any hole in the world. Puns are my weak spot.
Oh my
He's probably
God.
hiding in some hole in the wall. Hey, way to put us on the spot, mate. This search is starting to peter out. I hate it. And as the camera glides through the main hall of the HQ, we pass the black and yellow Spider Armor Mark II sitting on the left there. Then a steampunky looking one with these extra appendages. This is Maybelle Riley, Lady Spider from Earth 803. There's a traffic cop Spider-Man, and then there's a bombastic Bagman. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Then on the walkway, Miles passes the Spider Armor Mark III, and then they pass Peter Parked Car of Earth 53931, and then dropping into him Spider's side of Earth 616. This is a thick boy clone of 616 Peter, also the Last Stand Peter Parker of Earth 312500. This is the Peter with the high collar jacket who gets killed in the last stand run and exists alongside Ezekiel Sims. Then Peter of Earth 13122. That's the Lego universe that we saw earlier. You can actually see the
Oh,
Lego
shit.
man sitting on top of the windshield there.
I
And
thought
then
that was like a
Tarantula of
police
Earth
siren.
1610A, 16A being a side universe to Miles' universe of 1610. Then they meet the moody and dramatic Ben Reilly Spider-Man, aka the Scarlet Spider from
I know I've seen some people really mixed about this one, but my God, did it crack me up. I don't even care. Holy shit.
Earth 94, voiced by Andy Samberg. It's mentioned here that he's a clone because yes, he is from the Clone Saga, and yes, he's got a lot of baggage. Then they meet the web slinger, a cowboy
Dude, I love this
Spider-Man
guy.
from Earth 31913, voiced by Taron Killam, and his horse Widow, who's also in a mask. Lila takes him on the tour of all the multiversal anomaly villains who have been captured. She mentions several Doc Ock, a Mysterio, also a Mysterio, and then a video game guy section. In between them is the Insomniac Spider-Man of Earth 1048. That's the universe of the PS4 games, and he asks, "Are you talking to me?" And it's the voice of Yuri Lowenthal, who voices Peter in those Insomniac games. There's an interesting villain named Typeface who says, "Go to Helvetica." In the 2018 movie, they changed all the New York City public transit signs from the Helvetica typeface that it's in the real world to Arial, which Microsoft introduced in the early 90s as an alternative to Helvetica. So this might just be an inside joke with these animators. They might just really hate Helvetica and prefer Arial. And I can tell you, as someone who writes all my scripts in Arial for YouTube, Arial is much nicer because it takes up less space on the page, so that might be it. Then Lila mentions an interesting Craven, a boring Rhino, and then, oh my God, a Prowler.
Yeah, dude.
Glover in live action. Bobby claims he was the one who caught him himself, and Glover says, "I slipped." Remember, Glover played Aaron Davis in the live action MCU in Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017, and in that movie he referenced having a nephew who lives in that area, and in a deleted scene calls him Miles. Glover also cameoed in the 2018 Spider-Verse film from his scene in NBC's Community when Troy wears Spider-Man PJs. It's possible that this could be the same Aaron from the MCU just years after Homecoming. It is just wild to see.
I mean, a lot of time has passed, but who knows? Dude, it looks so good. Why can't we have this? I hope we get this eventually. Gah, in action. But that was, dude, this got a reaction, man, in the theater, dude. This was a moment. Oh, I love it.
A live action character sharing the screen with animated ones like Mary Poppins or Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it increases the likelihood that this series in the next movie may introduce a live action Miles Morales who will be in the MCU and in the Sonyverse. Miles
that would be
Kess,
neat.
A Spider Bite from Earth 22191, voiced by Amanda Stenberg. She is a digital avatar, and her physical body is back at home, where she has a poster, "We are incognito," with a Guy Fawkes logo, an alternate version of the Hacker Group Anonymous. All these anomalies are sent to the Go Home machine, which comes back later.
That machine is like
DNA,
creepy.
Which is important. On their way in to see Miguel, Hobie rips a piece of tech out of the wall, joking, "I bet this doesn't do anything." But it sets up how later he's able to engineer his own multiverse watch for Gwen to use.
I missed that detail the first time through until, you know, it was mentioned after the fact from who I was watching it with and stuff like that. And like, I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. I was like, what the I was wondering, I didn't even think about it, how he got a watch back and, you know, passed it along. I don't know how I just missed that little detail the first time through, but geez, it was, this movie.
Like, notice as they continue to walk through, he keeps swiping more and more stuff to use for it. Around Miguel's lab are futuristic versions of tech from villains Miguel has defeated by the year 2099, including the claw of a Prowler, the arms of Doc Ock, and the glider of Green Goblin, showing how he must use scraps of their tech to continue building his technology. Miles tries to connect with Miguel, offering him empanadas, but Miguel throws the food back in his face and responds in a curt, more technical Spanish than Miles' folksier Puerto Rican Brooklyn slang. Peter B. Parker returns along with his new baby daughter Mayday Parker, who has a baby day pass, telling us that Jessica Drew gave Miles a wristband that's normally for babies. So Miguel launches into his big explanation, first depicting all of reality as a glowing white vine with branches.
Interesting that looks just like the Sacred Timeline at that point.
Imagery that I think is made to look just like the Sacred Timeline of the MCU, which split into a multiverse at the end of Loki and is now a messy web, last seen in the post-credit scene of Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania. It's clear that this movie is trying to establish the animated Spider-Verse as part of the live-action Marvel multiverse from the MCU. But over this white vine, straight red lasers beam out to represent the Spider-Verse. Miguel O'Hara refers to this as the Web of Life and Destiny, which is the term of the comics. Reggie says here, arachno-humanoid polymultiverse. The nodes represent canon events, and in the first one, we see 6 different comics moments when a spider bite occurred, including an early one where Peter's wearing the yellow vest. Behind that
Yeah.
on the right are various moments Peter and MJ connect, including Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane, kissing Tobey Maguire
Yeah, I
Peter
saw
in the rain
that.
from the 2002 film. Then to the left, the next nodes that Miguel refers to as very, very
Venom.
bad shows 6 moments the Venom symbiote overtook Eddie Brock in the comics. It's
Spider-Man
fascinating
3 is
that
right
Miguel
on there.
categorizes the creation of Venom as a canon event in the life of every Spider person. To me, this kind of feels like Sony's trying to make Venom as important as possible to their Spider-Verse.
I'm sorry. Trying to make him important to every Spider-Man's? I'm sorry, Venom is important to every Spider-Man story. What are you trying to say, Eric? I'm not even gonna let you finish the sentence before I come at you like this.
Franchise, which also would be kind of weird because their 2 Venom movies so far remove the Spider-Man step from the Venom origin. But go
Other than the multiversal hive mind that they share, that they connect with every Venom on every multiverse with a shared knowledge across them.
Going forward, the implication here seems to be
Anyway.
that every Peter, Miles, Gwen, or whoever will spawn a symbiote-enriched rival that will plague their lives. Then Miguel takes us through what I'm going to call
It's destiny,
Death
man.
Alley. All the mentor figures that the Spider people have lost. Miles sees a projection of his loss of Uncle Aaron from the first film, and Miguel singles out what he calls Event ASM 90, which is a nod to the Amazing Spider-Man number 90, in which George Stacy goes to save a kid. We actually see the same comics art
Yeah.
of those panels here during Spider-Man's fight with Doc Ock that ends up taking George's life. I believe it's 31 issues after this, Amazing Spider-Man 121, that is the death of Gwen Stacy, his daughter. Miles turns over to a parallel moment, a projection of Andrew freaking Garfield,
Yeah.
Peter Parker, crying over the body of Dennis Leary, Captain Stacy from 2012's Amazing Spider-Man film when George was killed by Rhys Ifans' version of the Lizard, Dr. Connors. And again, since all these Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield moments connect to the MCU by association, this animated Spider-Man film is giving us a codified understanding of how the Spider-Verse is all connected, including to the MCU. Miguel confesses that he tried to bypass a canon event of his variant's death in a reality so that he could be happy in a reality with his daughter Gabriella, but eventually that reality erased around him. This may remind you of the logic of what's called absolute points in What If Episode 4 over in the Marvel world, but it just sounds like different terms for the same kind of idea.
Another thing about Miguel that came up when I was watching this as well was that because he's kind of like policing the timeline and the canon, in a way he seems like an allegory or a representative or stand-in for those fans that really want things to stick to the canon, stick to the story they know, don't want things to deviate away. And this isn't against Miguel or anything like this, or the comic book version of him or anything, but that's just the kind of commentary that I get with what this story is about, with us trying to project a story onto Miles. To tell Miles he's not part of this story, to tell Miles he's not Spider-Man, to tell Miles he doesn't deserve to be here, that he's a mistake, you know, that he is an anomaly. He deserves just as much, if not more, than a lot of them to be in this position where he is. He comes off sounding and spouting a lot of similar rhetoric you would hear from a lot of fans, particularly the ones that don't like Miles, especially Miles being referred to as Spider-Man, which we still see quite a lot. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, not Miles. And I'm pretty sure, even though we learn that spider was supposed to bite Miles, I could have sworn I heard Miguel say that universe's Peter should have been bit by that spider. That was what was meant to happen. But that's not what we saw with the Spot's vision or earlier in the movie, or what we saw when we went there either. So I don't know what to believe in that moment. Maybe I misheard that. Maybe I misremembered that. But I like that. That's just what I thought of during a lot of those scenes with Miguel. Being like, no, you gotta stick to what we know.
Peter B. Parker explains the necessary loss of Uncle Ben, and in one node portal, we see Cliff Robertson, Uncle Ben, dying from the 2002 Sam Raimi film, and Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker crying over him. But to the right of that is the animated spectacular Spider-Man, the one voiced by Josh Keaton, in the moment his Uncle Ben died, and then on the far right is Uncle Ben's death from the cutscene of the PS4 game. Josh Keaton actually joins the other Spider people in this intervention, saying, I know it's hard, but it's the truth, Miles. When Miguel traps Miles in this red energy field, Hobie holds out his hands palms, calling back his advice to Miles back in Mumbattan to use the palms instead of the fingertips. And so when Miles
Dude, Hobie, man. I did not expect him to pay off in the way that he did. To have such an important key role like this. You know, I expected somebody like Jessica Drew to have a little bit more of a role to play here. I think maybe they'll save a little bit of that for the next I wanted to say episode, but the next movie. But like, he was a surprise swing. And right out of the park, man, with what they did with him, dude.
Listens
Loved
to him
it.
and blasts out of the cage, and all the other spider people chase after him. Hobie's like, nah, I'm out. And he leaves back through a portal and tosses his watch behind. I'm telling you, as we look ahead to Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, Hobie Brown is a very important character and a potential mentor to Miles Morales that none of the other characters are. So Miguel alerts the Spider Society. In his cafeteria, one of them's reading a newspaper with an opinion page headline, "Are cats man's best friend?" They all break into groups of 3, recreating the pointing meme
yeah,
from the post-credits scene
dude.
of the 2018 film, which of course was repeated in the live action Spider-Man No Way Home. I just love the idea that 3 is kind of a magic number for these spider people to stump them into confusion like this. The group closest to us includes the white logo PS4 game Advanced Suit Spider-Man, and next to him is Spider-Man Unlimited from the late 90s animated series. And then
oh yeah, it was.
Dude.
Do I have web on my face? What's the deal?
This is Spider-Man 2211, aka Max Bourne from Earth 9500, an associate of Miguel O'Hara in the 90s comics. And Miles clings to his back, kind of like Aladdin does with that bodybuilder when he flees the guards in the chase sequence of that movie. He falls down and they're piling onto him like white blood cells. One of them definitely the gray armored Spider Armor Mark 1. And then Spider Cat, who coughs up a web furball on his face. And notice how Spider Cat's gizmo is latched to its tail. Miles says, which is a callback to Peter B. Parker when they meet the other 3 eccentric spider people in the 2018 film.
This could literally not get any weirder. It can get weirder.
And then there's Petarker, aka Spider
Jesus,
Rex.
yeah, dude.
Twist, it's T-Whip. Miles gets hit by Chibi Spider-Man, the really small one, and then by Spider Monkey. Then the web slinger cowboy Spider-Man from the Wild West universe and the Ultimate Animated series. He fires bullets from his revolver. Miles and Web Slinger end up in a Clint Eastwood-style duel. The frame goes to a 2:9:3:1 aspect ratio like it does in westerns, and Miles gets a quick draw with a thwip. And then we get this moment. And then I looked at my uncle and...
let me guess. He died?
Oh, the ink blot on the walls of Spider too.
The therapy office is an ink blot test that, naturally, to us and to all these characters, looks like a spider. There's also a diploma from Ditko University.
Oh, cool!
Creator Steve Ditko, and it names this therapist Spider-Man
Ezekiel Sims,
who is the old man Spider-Man from the comics. So since he's the oldest of them, he probably is the wisest and has the most therapeutic wisdom to be able to give them. Peter B. Parker asks Miguel to take a photo of he and Mayday's first chase together. Miguel blows him off, but Mayday whips the button of the phone to take the selfie. During the chase, Miles slides into the legs of Flash Thompson Spider-Man, aka Captain Spider. He wears the Letterman jacket. Miles swings ahead of the bombastic Bagman. This is from the comics when Peter gets stuck in the Fantastic Four's Baxter building and has to borrow one of their suits, and wears a brown paper bag over his head to disguise himself. When Miles twists the bag around on his head, you can see the CMYK Ben-Day dots in his outline staying the same size. We also, of course, see Spider-Man in the Megaverse. Miles pushes him away.
Cool.
Miles gallops on the horse Widow past the anomalies who
dude, like how?
Booing Miguel and the others.
There's so much detail in this movie, man.
In the face of Spider-Wolf. Then Miles passes Charlotte Weber, the Sun Spider, who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that affects her joints and connective tissue, so she uses a wheelchair and crutches. She's voiced by Danielle Perez. The 1967 Spider-Man from the animated series returns from the 2018 movie post-credit scene, voiced by Yorma Tacone. And then Miles runs through a kind of danger room with past...
And I love how he's just like animated so slowly that he just misses everything.
Villains, the Sinister Six,
yeah, dude.
Animated series. We see Doc Ock, Shocker, Goblin, and the rest. Then Miles dives out of the skyscraper. A cyborg Spider-Woman follows, along with a Canadian Spider-Woman with a hockey stick that Chibi Spider-Man rides. Miles drops into the underworld in Nueva York, and Peter B. Parker tries to get him to hold Mayday, saying Miles is the reason he had a kid. Reminds us of that moment in the 2018 film when, remember, Peter B. Parker had split up with his MJ because he didn't want to have kids, but upon meeting Miles and seeing him kick ass, he realized, wait, do I want kids now? Miguel chases Miles on the skybound bullet train, an incredibly animated fight. At
Hell yeah, dude.
Miguel's lunge, a frame flashes from an animated storyboard cell, including some artist notes, Imperial Violet and Crimson Red. This is what instructs the artist which ink color to fill in the character with. These shades are the specific shades of the red and indigo for Miguel's suit. You'll notice these kind of lines and notes often hover around Miguel and his tech. I just love how it hints at Miguel at being a tech head and a control freak, constantly trying to upgrade and upkeep his own animation as he repeatedly has to replug his techno-organic suit. This is what...
Oh, I didn't even think about that. And also, you know, you don't see this detail that I talked about with the spot on too many other characters except for Miguel and the spot that I caught. I mean, I'm sure there was a couple others, but I never really noticed this on Gwen, Peter, or Miles, you know? And I wonder why that is, in a way. But, like you said, maybe the whole upgrade thing is part of it. That maybe because of where he's become so entangled in the Spider-Verse as we see it, because he's the guy that started this whole operation with exploring it and managing it. And like I said earlier, on top of that, and the time that he spent starting this to now, the dude has altered and changed so much. Same with his attitude, you know?
What Miles uses against Miguel here, placing his palm on his shoulder, overloading the suit, giving
Yeah, hold on, looking at Miles. Yeah, I don't see any of those lines on Miles. Yeah, I didn't think I didn't think so throughout the entire movie, but yeah, they're definitely not present on him.
Hey. And then revealing he intentionally lured all the spider people high above the city so that he could just leap off the train back to the base. Peter B. Parker says, I did teach him that, so I feel like a pretty good mentor, referring to when Peter B. Parker in the 2018 film just jumped off the ledge and fell into the collider beam so that he could go home. Miles goes invisible and sneaks past Margot. He scans his DNA and briefly can see the scan reading Earth 42 since it reads the DNA of the spider that bit him. So the go-home machine goes to work. It's a robot in the shape of a spider wrapping Miles up in a web of
kind of horrific,
Miguel
man.
Tries to pry in, but when given the option to reboot the system, Margot decides at the last second to just let Miles go home. So Miles tumbles into this red and green Brooklyn
I
where
thought
it
that was the
rains.
case.
It's a color scheme that we haven't seen before, so it kind of hits us as really eerie and off, but it bears a similar palette to the 1610 universe that Miguel, Ben Reilly, and Jess go to, making this a really effective visual fake-out. Back in 616B, Peter and MJ put Mayday to bed.
It took me a little too long to figure that out.
You just have to make adjustments at halftime, which feels like a meta nod to this story's two-part structure.
Yo.
Across the Spider-Verse ends at halftime, Beyond the Spider-Verse being the second half, where Peter and Gwen now have to make adjustments and put some new players on the field. Captain Stacy tells his daughter Gwen that he's quitting being a cop, and he gives her the gadget that Hobie built using tech stolen from Miguel. On the screen it reads Project Bootleg, and for the strap he used a Union Jack pattern band. So Miles swings through Times Square, where all of his villains, past and present, are haunting him. We see the giant hands of the Spot reaching out to him. But in Times Square, if you look closely, you see W and W's instead of M&M's, and Soca Coca, which is a giveaway that this is not 1610, because remember, in his universe, it's Coca Soda instead of Coca-Cola. Ben Reilly camps out outside Miles' room in 1610, but Gwen takes him out, and this is right as we see Miles arriving home, so we naturally just assume it's the same universe. I love when movies do this. Like my favorite example is Silence of the Lambs, when you think Clarice Starling and the rest of the FBI are at the same house,
dude.
you realize the raid is happening at the wrong place, and Clarice is at Buffalo Bill's house by herself. This also happens in the Fellowship of the Ring, when you think the ring wraiths are about to stab the hobbits in their beds, but they're actually across the street. It always works on me, and the way they tease this out is so well done. Rio asks Miles why he changed his hair. She doesn't remember giving him any advice. Miles, though, has a speed bag by his door now, as in Earth 42, Miles would be more of an aggressive fighter. Also, Earth 42, Miles' room has less toys and posters and more stuff in milk crates. Around the house, there aren't really that many photos of Jeff Morales, just the mother and the son, because it would have been too painful to have too many photos of him around. Miles reveals himself as Spider-Man, but Rio doesn't know who it is, and for a second we're just like, oh, she's just a mom who doesn't really get it. But no, there is no Spider-Man in this universe. Miles demonstrates this just sad little thwip, question mark? And there's a great match cut with Gwen standing on the ceiling of Miles' empty room in 1610. Cut to Miles in Earth 42 with his mom, and Miles finally figures it out, and it hits us like a hammer. Uncle Aaron walks through the door, having never died in this dimension because there's no Spider-Man, and they go to the rooftop. The city is plagued with crime, on fire, and the worst gut punch, the rooftop mural. In place of the Aaron Memorial now has a memorial for Jeff Morales. In the upper corners of that mural, Pichelli and Bendis, or Sarah Pichelli and Brian Michael Bendis, creators of the Miles Morales character. Miles gets KO'd by his alternate Prowler self before he sees it coming. His spider sense never went off, maybe because he can't sense himself, especially if that variant self doesn't have spider powers. Miles
that's an interesting theory.
Bag, the same one that he used to work out on in the 2018 film, and the one Miles tied Peter B. Parker to. Aaron puts on an album, Ain't No Love by A Lion Unleashed, featuring Bobby Blue Band. Aaron punches the bag, releasing a blast of CMYK dots, like all the ink was slammed out of it. We briefly hear the voice of J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, reporting crime from the TV as a younger Prowler
Sinister Six
Miles
Cartel.
G. Morales, whose hair is braided, the same one we saw back in the Spot's backstory of the spider that left Earth 42. Our Miles' face is lit red on one side, blue on the other, mixing in the middle as Prowler Purple. His fingertip manages to produce a small spark on the chain, but he doesn't have his full palm free. Meanwhile, Gwen reunites with Peter B. Parker and Mayday as we hear her drum solo returning from the opening minutes, and we see the new band that she has put together, including Gwen, Peter B.
Let's
Parker,
go.
Mayday, Hobie Brown, Privateer Prevacar, Margot Kess Spider-Bite, and returning from the first film, but not saying anything, Penny Parker, Spider-Ham, and Spider-Man Noir. And we end with Gwen asking us the line, "You want in?" This explains why the film opened the way it did, from Gwen's point of view. A third-person
Dude,
account
it's
of what
hyping me
Miles
up
went
so
through,
much.
telling us why she quit her band, saying let's do things differently this time, and why the opening images included things that happened to Miles throughout the film. This was all Gwen's sales pitch, her recruiting mission, what she said to every single one of these spider people to get her to join her team, to join this rescue mission, and this brave step to defy the Spider Society. So yeah, we want in, and go ahead and
Hell
take
yeah,
money
man. man.
Spider-Man Beyond the Spiderverse
Yeah,
next
dude.
year. Holy shit, what a cliffhanger and what a film. Please support our
Dude, I'm getting a little misty, dude.
Multiverse Dive shirt.
God damn.
Subscribe to the Deep Dive channel for deeper dives into the Spider-Verse this week. And
Hell
subscribe
yeah,
to our
man.
channel, The Break Room. Follow me on Instagram.
Subscribe to
Twitter,
all
Follow
their
New
shit.
Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars
Do
for
it.
more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
God damn, man. That was such a dense breakdown, dude. Holy fuck. Dude, all the 280 spider people that they animated for this thing, dude. I gotta commend it. And one thing I did hear too is that to help with some of the stuff in this, they even like reached out to fan artists who had done work for, you know, doing fan art for Into the Spider-Verse and stuff like that. I haven't double checked this myself, but this is something somebody, you know, told me when they were digging into some stuff post-film, that they had brought a bunch of artists just off the internet and stuff and involved them in design work for some of the Spider-Man that they created as well. Don't know how true that is, but if they did, that is wild. Again, this studio has such a reverence for the human artistic vision that it just moves me to no end, man. Just these little details that that accentuate an emotion, that accentuate a scene in these abstract ways, using color, light, position, and just texture and music and all these different elements that come together to help enhance the narrative in this way that is more than just this duplication or replication. It's just, oh, it's so good. Man, I love it. The color palette of this movie, the way that color represents something in every shot, the specific choices and design work from world to world, the way they just, by frame, switch just between certain things, just on a whim. Like that shot with Miguel, where for just a second you see the outline with the instructions on what color to ink the character. It's like so brilliant and methodical, and an extra mile with what they do with this, an extra miles, as we now have 2 by the end of this. Like, even so too, I feel like maybe they missed some stuff as well. Maybe they didn't, I don't know, in the beginning, because I feel like when they were going through all the logos, like every frame, there was a different style to it. And maybe it was just a trick of the eye, and there wasn't as many as I thought, but I'm curious if you go back and frame by frame that, if there's anything different you can find in the Marvel logo, and the Sony logo, and the Columbia logo, and the Lord & Miller logo, and all that stuff, but I don't know, maybe not. But man, and then the credits, the paintbrush wash of the credits with Miguel and everybody, and Miles and the whole crew in this completely different medium than we've seen throughout the movie too, was also just beautiful as the credits sequence were rolling before it hit the black after the Miles will return beyond the Spider-Verse. I cannot wait for the next movie, man. But anyway, guys, I'll pass it off to you. Did you catch anything that was missed in this breakdown? I would love to hear it. If so, sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Hope you enjoyed this reaction. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you're not already. And before you go, I want to shout out our channel legends. Manny Sherritt, Ryan, Karen, Philly Vane, York, Corey Scott, Margaret Grace, Melito, Robert Anguiano, Jeffrey Hale, M. Sephiroth, Jake Cantrell, Tiff, and Eric Official. Thank you guys so much for your continued support and everybody who's been coming along for this journey. But guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.